Hi guys, and welcome to Fix Savers. Today we're bringing you another video in our pool table series, and in this video we're going to be looking specifically on how to seal the joints on your pool table slates. Let's take a look. So there's a couple of little things to point out before we get stuck into the process of sealing the slate joints. Also worth pointing out that we've done a whole series of pool table videos on everything you can imagine, from replacing the cloth on the rails, the main play cloth, the full pool table construction. I have links for you below, so if any of that's of any interest, you need any help with anything else on your pool table, scroll down and check those out. Okay, so looking at sealing the slates on a pool table. Now there's two main ways of doing this. One is to use beeswax, and the other is to use a product such as Bondo, which is actually a car body filler. Now both systems have their advantages and disadvantages, and if you want to go away and do a little bit of Google research on comparing one to the other to pick the one that's right for you, that's absolutely fine. Both methods are used by professional pool table installers, and so both are very, very common. In this video today, we're going to be sealing our slate joints using the Beeswax method. So if you're going to be looking at sealing your slates using the beeswax method, there's a few things that you're going to need. First of all, obviously, is the beeswax itself. And when you come to buy your beeswax, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You just need to make sure that it's definitely 100% beeswax. You can buy it quite easily from places like Amazon, and you'll find very often it's referred to as a cosmetic grade beeswax. That's absolutely fine. As long as it's 100% beeswax, that's perfect. And you usually see that often it's like things like triple filtered. All that's good. As long as it's 100% beeswax, you can't really go too far wrong. So in addition to your beeswax, you don't actually need that much. The main thing you're going to need is you will need a blowtorch, as we need to heat up that beeswax to change it to liquid form. And then obviously we need something to be able to scrape away the excess. You need a scraper, and additionally, if you can, always a good idea when using a blowtorch to use some heat resistant gloves. So before you seal the slate joints, you should have fully leveled up your slates, got them absolutely perfect to the point that you're happy with it. So obviously once you do this, you can't then adjust the slates. If you need any help on adjusting the slates, we have a full video available on that. We'll have a link for you below. But that's key, is this is done after your slates have been correctly leveled. So before you get started, it's worth having a look at your joints. As we can see, we've got a little chip just in here, and in actual fact, just here as well, these are chips, and this is the previous beeswax. Yeah, that's the previous beeswax that's in a couple of little chips there. I think this is, yeah, here we go. Yeah, see it there actually. Yeah, so this has been sealed in the past with the kind of the Bondo method, or something very, very similar to that, and that's resulted in some little chips. So it doesn't matter, because all this gets refilled when you put your new coating on, whether that be beeswax or another coat of Bondo. So one of the disadvantages of Bondo is it can put little chips on the edges, so that's why I prefer the beeswax method, but both are commonly used, and so it's just a matter of personal preference. Another thing to consider, and this will depend on your particular pool table, because this is a used pool table, you can kind of see this this line here, slightly darker on this side of the line than it is here. You've got a line that runs down the middle, and that's where the rail is actually going to sit when we have that installed. So we can tell from that. The other thing you can do is also you can grab your rail, have a look at the holes underneath and align them and have a look. So what you want to double check is that any holes for the fixing of your slates are actually sit underneath the rails. So we don't need to fill this hole, we don't need to get it flat, because it's going to definitely sit underneath our rail, so we're quite happy with that. On some pool tables you'll find that you have additional holes which are a little bit further in, and they're actually just within the playing surface, and the reason they do that is it aids a little bit with levelling up the pool tables. It's a little bit annoying though, because obviously any hole, you'll have a hole not dissimilar to this, but it will be actually on the playing surface, and of course that will also need to be filled in addition to the slate joint itself. So when you come to do your beeswax seal here, the other thing you're going to need to do, if you do have holes in the playing surface for screws, is you're going to need to beeswax over that. The process is exactly the same as applying beeswax to your slate joint, but obviously it does need a fair bit more, because you're filling a hole rather than a really thin little gap. Ideally, not essential, if you've got some kind of tongs or something that you can hold the beeswax with, and that will enable you to obviously keep your hand further from the flame, just for safety. So what we need to do first of all is just heat up the old joint. The reason being, especially if it's got beeswax remnants as this has, this will help just to start to melt this beeswax. A little bit will start to go in, and you might even burn off a little bit of the old stuff as well. So just going to give that a bit of a tidy with the blowtorch before we apply the fresh beeswax. One other thing to mention just before you start heating up this beeswax, it's a good idea, especially if you have a carpeted floor, to put a blanket or some old cardboard or something like that underneath this joint, just in case some melted wax goes all the way through this slate joint and ends up on the carpet. You'd be gutted if you ruin your carpet, so just put something down under the table. It likely won't happen, but just in case. Next we're going to look at applying the new beeswax to the joint here. Remember, when you come to the end here, you don't need to go right to the edge of the table. That's actually far closer than it needs to be. Remember your rails here, you just need to ensure that it's sealed under your rails. So to about this level here will be absolutely perfect. About a couple of inches from the end, perfect. You don't need to run it straight off the end. So the basic process is you're just going to hold the beeswax a bit near your joint, apply the heat, and then you're just going to run it down and get a good thread of beeswax. You can kind of see how thick the previous beeswax application was along the joint. Because that's nice and hot, that will help seep down into that crack. It's also handy to have a piece of cardboard ready on the playing surface, so that when you finish with this, obviously it's going to be dripping, you can put it just straight onto here, you're not going to make a mess. Move quite quickly, just go in with your scraper and do this before it dries. Scrape off the excess. You don't need to come right to the edge of the table, you just need to get it so it's sealed underneath the rails. If you've got a couple of drips, just make sure you get rid of those. Then you just want to give it a good feel all the way along. It should be kind of flat. I can see I've got a little bit of excess just in here. You can feel that it's thicker, and now's the time, well, there's still a tiny bit of warmth in it, just to run it over again. This is that little spot that I pointed out. I had this little chip from a previous installation. and that one hasn't filled. Obviously didn't put quite enough in there, so I'm going to put another little application down here and then scrape that off as well. A bit more on that area. This is when you want to get that wax whilst it's got this slightly yellowy colour starting to appear. So straight away, just nice and hard and firm. Go over your joint and just, it should feel really smooth, almost like glass. If there's anywhere you're not happy with, you can always apply a little bit more beeswax over that kind of area and then scrape that area again and get it to a point where you're 100% happy. So there we have it, guys. That is how to seal your pool table slate joints using the beeswax method. If this video has been helpful for you, before you leave us here on YouTube, please help us out in return. Give our videos a quick thumbs up, a like on YouTube. Also, if you could hit that subscribe button, it really would be appreciated. Remember, we have a whole series of various different pool table videos, including full installations, felt, so well worth checking out. I'll add some links for you below. Please do go and have a look at those as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again.